Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today I have a very interesting topic to talk about. Nice guys, right? Every woman wants a nice guy. But my guest today, Mr. Jason Miller, is going to show us why we might want to restructure our concept of the nice guy. So, welcome to the show today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Oh, thank you, Lon. I appreciate it. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So, like I said, you help nice guys
Uh-huh.
overcome the nice guy syndrome and get more out of life. But the tables that I sit at, Jason, all the little coffee shop conversations that I have with the women, they're all crying, I want a nice guy. I want a nice guy. I want a nice guy. So, what's wrong with being a nice guy?
Well, I think the problem is that we need to get clear on what we mean by nice. So this goes back to a book written in 2003 by Dr. Robert Glover called No More Mr. Nice Guy. So he was a clinical therapist and he started to see patterns among his clients and patterns in himself that matched. And he came up with this nice guy syndrome, this nice guy profile. And this book is extremely popular, at least for men that are out there on the internet. It's a very popular book. For me, it was a life-changing book in the sense that this was my owner's manual, that I discovered that I was this nice guy type. And the truth is that if you fit this type, you're not that nice.
Ah,
So there's a couple things that are going on with nice guys, and we kind of look at it in terms of nice guys have a lot of anxiety, they might have some shame, and they have a flawed worldview and flawed strategies for dealing with the world. So the typical one is that nice guys try to get what they want in relationships by being nice, but they don't ask for it. They might not even be aware of what they want or need in the relationship, but they keep trying to be nice and keep hoping that the other person gives them what they want. And then if they do that long enough, they get frustrated and then they might blow up, they might get
mm-hmm,
angry.
mm-hmm.
And that's the typical pattern, is that on some level, nice guys don't feel like they can ask for what they want. They don't feel worthy. And
Okay.
so what happens is that you're dealing with a personality that uh, it's frustrating because you never know where the nice guy is going to stand. If you go out online, and there's kind of a lot of nice guy hate out there. A lot of women will post online dating profiles and interactions with nice guys, and they'll bash them, thinking that nice guys are being manipulative, and they are being manipulative, but they just don't know that they are.
Okay.
They're not
Okay.
aware of it. So
So tell me, what are some ways that the nice guy is manipulative?
oh, sure. It could be that he he's always afraid that people aren't going to like him. He's always trying to get approval.
Okay.
He's afraid that people are going to leave him. If he's, if a nice guy is dating a woman, he's going to be nice to her. He's going to do nice things. He might go out of his way to pay for dates. He may be afraid to make a move on her without, he doesn't want to offend her. And that's just not honest.
Okay.
If he's not being deliberate about his intentions and moving the interactions forward, he's just not being honest. He's holding back, thinking that if he is authentic with her, that she'll either reject him or get angry at him, and that'll ruin the whole situation.
So these
And
are guys that we as women have in the friend zone.
exactly, that was what I
Okay.
was going to say next. That was what I was going to say next.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The friend zone, guys that are in the friend zone very often will exhibit these kinds of behaviors because they're not going for rejection quickly. They're not moving it forward quickly. They're not asking the woman out. They're not going out on the date and making their intentions clear. And so if they're holding back and they're shy and they're trying to be, quote, nice, they're actually not being real. They're not being authentic. And that leads to all sorts of, down the line, you get in deeper into a relationship with a nice guy, he may, um, one of the things that Dr. Glover talks about in the book is they may lie, to try to make things, smooth things over. small
Mm.
lies to make things look better than they are, or not reveal any weakness in himself for fear that he'll be rejected, those kinds of things. So you can imagine the problems that it causes. Um, but yeah, there's a whole the like I say, if what I tell guys is if they've ever gotten feedback that they're a nice guy, they probably should read that book and see if it matches up with their experience at all. So
Okay, okay. Now there was a time you kind of touched on this earlier where you struggled with the nice guy syndrome. So what did life look like for you in your own journey?
well, for me, it's specific to certainly a lot of crushes, a lot of friend zone, a lot
Oh,
of choosing, settling for the wrong type of women or women that were incredibly wrong for me. And, kind of serial monogamous, being very needy in relationships, that kind of thing. Going back to in my life having a very narcissistic father, psychologically abusive, kind of a going out of his way to be a macho guy.
okay.
And so my pathway was kind of what can I do to be the opposite of him? And so in being the opposite of him, I went way too nice, way too milk toast, not exhibiting kind of that authentic masculine vibe and putting that out there. So that's kind of my path going down that road. And so that led to hundreds of hours
Okay.
of therapy,
Okay.
lots of coaching, getting into coaching. So that's what put me here at this point today.
Okay. And you mentioned something interesting about qualities of a nice guy, but there is the other side where enough is enough, and there's like the blow up possibility. And I'm kind of reflecting on quite a bit of a few of men in my personal life journey where they exhibit nice guy qualities, but on the flip, I've seen situations where they're just very like machismo and like this is it, and they're very difficult to deal with, but they've been nice for so long, and you know so,
Well, it's yeah. You kind of is he starts out too nice and it's not working for him, then he goes all the way to jerk. Is that what you're talking about?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So that's a thing for sure. So what happens is a nice guy figures out it doesn't work. He gets angry and he's just basically screw it. I'm just gonna be rude. Women like jerks. That kind of false duality that there's
Uh-huh.
only two ways to be, and that uh, it's still a problem because
Okay.
we're still not really it's just a different reaction to disappointment. Instead of going inward and retreating, they're just lashing out at the world. It's the same frustration for not getting what they want.
Okay.
And the third way is to learn how to be more authentic and not be afraid to get turned down or afraid to get rejected, and dealing and handling with your own emotional experience. Because what a nice guy is wanting to do all the time is trying to get the other person to do what he wants
Mm.
so that he can feel better or feel good, instead
Okay.
of working on handling his own emotional experience and not having that codependency on somebody else.
Now, you mentioned a couple of times the phrase, and it's very popular today, being authentic, being authentic. And you understand that it would make life so much easier if we just be authentic. But people really struggle with kind of sitting in a corner and doing the work like, who am I? What makes me me so that I can go out into this world and have healthier interactions with people. What's the struggle to just be authentic, do you think?
Well, it's primarily in my experience that people don't want to experience the negative outcome of being authentic. They don't want to be disappointed by being turned down. They don't want to have anyone get angry at them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to put that at risk. I mean, basically, what I train my guys to do is you're not going to get anywhere near what you want if you're constantly holding back and not taking these social risks, right? So if you take a social risk and you don't get what you want, you're going to have probably a negative emotional experience. And that's what everybody's afraid of, is having that negative emotional experience. You don't
Okay.
actually fear the rejection per se. You actually fear how you're going to feel about it,
Uh,
right? So if I can train a client to handle and own his own emotional experience, then he can step into more confidence and not have that dependent relationship on a woman or anybody else he's trying to get something from. And that's part of breaking that habit. But he lives entirely in terms of, if I get this person to like me, then everything will be perfect.
Okay.
Kind of a fantasy.
Yeah. And so I guess we need to understand that there is a line between being a nice guy and being a total jerk, but we have to find that line.
Well, it's a third way. Yeah. So as a nice guy and jerk are at the opposite ends of this false duality. But it's the third way. Did you say your female friends are looking for
A
nice
nice
guys? What are
guy.
they? It's that third way that they're looking for. So it's somebody who can actually be straight, be confident in being honest and upfront, and knowing what he wants and knowing what he wants to say and say it. Meanwhile, being able to handle whatever sort of conflict or argument or disagreement and work towards towards some sort of a collaborative agreement, whatever kind of relationship it is. That's the third way, but you have to get good at handling the emotions of it.
Okay.
And after you practice handling your own emotions, you have to be practicing allowing the other person to have theirs.
Yes.
And
Okay.
not reacting to theirs, but allowing them. So it's like creating that space or holding that space in the conversation becomes a leadership proposition, whether it's a couple or whether it's you're at work and you're managing employees. It's a leadership situation where you've got yourself handled, and then you're creating the space for the other person to be authentic with you.
Okay.
That's the next step.
Now, what advice would you give to women when we run into these nice guys? Because I really think we're all in this together to help each other out and make each other better. So if you run into a nice guy as a female, and he's just overcompensating, trying to make you happy all the time, what do we do on our end to say, maybe we should shift here, change the dynamic?
I once had years ago a girlfriend told me once, and we started dating, and I was working hard to impress her early on. And she turned to me, she's like, I like you already. You don't have to impress me. You don't have to work so hard.
Hmm.
So that was a nice gift from her
Okay.
to give me a chance to relax. But if you're watching the guy go off in this direction, and it's in chase going on anyway,
Hmm.
because we're trying to make it smooth and easy and no sort of emotional tension because
Okay.
we don't like that. That's scary. And so we're kind of taking all the fun out of it. We're taking a lot of the emotion out of it, and that makes it harder to kind of feel something.
Okay.
I think that a lot of women, when they're in a relationship, they want to feel it. They want to
Okay.
feel emotionally involved. They want to feel emotionally connected. And if a nice guy's trying to smooth things over all the time, he's not really holding his own,
Uh-huh.
and creating that presence so that there's a possibility for conflict or disagreement, or the possibility for romantic or sexual tension. Then women got nothing to kind of be drawn to.
Okay.
So that's
So
another aspect of it.
So do we as women kind of take inventory, look around, and give pink slips to all of our friend zone guys?
um, well, maybe uh, guys who are friend zoned are actually probably not being a true friend in a certain
Ah,
sense. They're probably hoping for more, and in hoping for more, they're not necessarily capable of being a true friend. And I think that's where the disconnect is a lot of time in these friend zone situations, and the reason that guys get really angry about it, and women are kind of like, well, what happened? Is not playing the same game. I mean, his agenda is completely different. So that's just something to be aware of. If if a woman out there is friend zoned a guy, he's probably not going to be a very good friend. I'm not saying that's not possible, but I'm saying it's something he's probably not going to be able to let it go
mm-hmm.
until he starts dating somebody else.
Got you. Understood.
Yeah.
Now, in your work that you do with nice guys, is it hard for a man to admit he's the nice guy?
No, not after seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
The brilliance of Dr. Glover's book is that he paints such a clear picture of what it's like to be a nice guy, and that's why the book is persisted. It's such a clear picture
Okay.
that any guy who reads the book, if he identifies with it at all, he's going to say, "Okay, I can see where I do that or where I'm being like that." It becomes obvious, and
Okay.
I think that some guys definitely react. I read stories online about guys who are like, I can't get through the book. Every other page I turn, I get sick to my stomach. I get it. Or they could be all the way at the other end where I read it in 2 or 3 hours and I was like, this is fantastic. I have my owner's manual after here I am, in my 40s, and I finally have my owner's manual,
Okay.
right? So it's just this wide range, but
Okay.
it's such a when you come across somebody who can and explains things very well and put together the picture very well, it becomes hard to dispute or hard to be in denial about.
Okay. Now we've been talking about relationships, but is it okay to be a nice guy in leadership roles?
Not if you're no, there's
I
okay,
mean,
so
doesn't it corral the team up like, oh, I've got a nice boss?
well, again, it's that third way, right? It's that third way. I don't want to be too nice to my team if I'm the team leader or if I'm
Okay.
the boss or the manager. If I'm too nice to my team, my clients fall into this category when they're in leadership roles in a
Mm-hmm.
business that they get anxious when the team is having a conflict and they want to smooth things
Uh,
over. They want to make everybody happy. They don't want anybody to leave the organization, make everything calm, smooth, and what in these cases what I have to train them to do is not only do you have to set the tone of what you want culturally for your organization and how you want people to behave, and they're laying out your values for it because you are the business leader. You have to handle your own discomfort with people not getting along or people having issues and that kind of thing. So you can't be nice, and you've really got to put out what your leadership position is, and you got to hold people accountable to it. A lot of these guys struggle with holding their teams accountable.
okay.
Forming, working, whether they're evaluating employees and dealing with bad behavior and that kind of thing. Being firm.
Okay.
I would say in some respects, if you look at coaches, athletic coaches or something, where it's kind of this edge that they run.
Mm.
Successful athletic coaches strike this balance where they're tough when they need to be tough, and they yell at you when they need to yell at you,
Yeah.
but they're 100% behind you and 100% supporting you. It's striking that balance that nice guys have a hard time doing.
Okay. Okay. Now, back to the relationship, it just crossed my mind when we're talking about getting nice guys to not be such nice guys. For us as women involved in relationships with you guys, does that mean we don't get flowers and dinner and open doors anymore? Or, I mean, what is it? What should we be expecting? I'm just I'm torn here.
So no, it does not mean that. No, it does not mean that. What it does mean, though, is that the way that I handle that with my clients is I say, what is your individual style?
Okay.
Right? What is your individual dating style? What is your individual style in being romantic? And,
Okay.
if you're the type who feels good about opening doors, then you open doors. If you're the type who feels good about giving gifts or giving flowers, then you do it. But
Okay.
here's the thing. Don't expect anything in return.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay, so that's the
Okay.
distinction, is that to do it, you've got to give it away as a gift completely with no agenda, with no hope for any
Okay.
form of reciprocation. And
Okay.
that's the hook. And so what you'll see is that just depends on the guy.
Okay.
It depends on the guy, what his style is and how he goes about it. And some guys want to do that and they feel good about it and they don't care if the woman responds positively or not. And that's the
Mm.
way to go.
Okay.
So that you're not attaching anything to it.
Okay.
That's the
I
critical piece.
I can see this listening to you talk and thinking about some things. I can think about the nice guy syndrome playing out more so in other areas of life besides relationships and leadership. And I have a acquaintance, and I'm always telling him like, you're too nice. You're too nice when it comes to parenting, because he just over the top, whatever the kids want. I don't, I just want to see them smile. I just want to see them happy. And I'm constantly telling him like, you're going to cause their downfall when they get to be adults, because they're not going to know how to provide for, take care of themselves. He's like, no, I have to be this, father to, but I can see the nice guy even being bad in so many other areas of life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a universal skill. So it's a when I said leadership earlier, it applies in whether you're in business or whether you're taking the lead in a relationship or whether you're parenting, it's the same thing. Or whether you're walking
Yeah.
your dog. I have clients that talk about how they walk their dogs and how the dog walks
Just
them.
takes advantage of like, hey, we're going
Right,
here.
right. The dog walks them.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for what if you're a nice guy or for watching Caesar Milan. Like he will explain it to you very well.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think that in a sense that uh, in parenting, yes, if you're not setting those boundaries for your kids, then they're never going to learn, the boundaries in real life and how to set boundaries on their own in real life. So it makes sense. And being too nice because you just want to smooth it over is not going to work over the
Yes.
long term.
Yes, yes. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, now when I sit down in my little coffee table groups and the ladies you're talking about, they want a nice guy. I'm gonna be, maybe you don't. Let's reflect here. Let's step back and think about this.
Yep. How do you define nice?
Yes, let's define nice because most of the ladies are saying, I just want, like I was saying earlier, that the considerate guy to, the flowers or whatever, but underneath that we have to ask, I guess, what are his true intentions as he's doing these things. Because it
Right.
might be sort of like a passive aggressive kind of thing,
Yes, it can be.
right?
Can be passive aggressive.
Okay. Now you offer coaching services and a support group for nice guys. How do
Yes.
how do men find you and these support groups?
Just go to www.planetniceguy.com. It's free. It runs on a platform called Mighty Networks, and we got a mobile app. Join us in there. We got daily activities and free calls where you can hang out with me.
Okay.
And then if you want to learn about me, you can go directly to my website at niceguycoach.com.
Okay.
And I have a form there if you want to apply to have a free call with me.
Okay. Now, because I tend to be the lady that gets the privilege of hanging out with the guys a lot, I hear you guys talk. And often you guys give each other very, very bad advice. Right?
What have you heard?
You guys, and so you guys give each other the advice to not be so nice. Oh man, you're just doing too much for her. Da, da, da. But it comes off on the jerk side. So, is it a situation where men need to kind of change how they interact with men to kind of get this message around? Like, there's a way to find this third way, as you're saying, because I think you guys, the whole machismo manhood thing, I think you guys are kind of transmitting wrong messages to each other over time.
I think that what you're pointing though to too is if one guy is saying you're going too far, you're being too nice,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing too much for her. I think
Yeah.
he's just pointing to the other guy's neediness
Okay.
and trying to not have him overextend himself. See, one of the things that in being too nice is that we're trying to impress. We're trying to get you to
Mm-hmm.
like us. So if we do 10 times as much as what the regular guy is going to do, number of nice things, then you're going to like us 10 times more.
Okay.
That's kind of the rationale.
Okay.
So it's not, we want to stay off that I can only be a jerk or only be a nice guy false continuum, right? So,
Okay.
but again, it just goes back to what the intention behind it is.
Okay.
I can do something nice and say I'm just doing this, and you're gonna go do what you're gonna. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, that's fine too.
Okay.
But if I do it where I'm doing it because I want you to like me. Hey, I gave you some flowers. Please like me. Please don't run away.
Yeah.
Please be with me. Be my girlfriend. Then that's different. That's coming from a place of neediness and with that agenda.
Yeah. I
So
think
it's not entirely bad advice. I don't think it's just nobody's talking in terms of what it actually means.
okay. I was thinking of maybe one of my recent conversations that I overheard, right?
Yes.
That I overheard.
Yes.
The guy was telling the guy he was dating this young lady, and he was trying to focus his attention on her, but the guy was telling him, no, you need to keep your options open and you need to date like 5 or 6 girls. Don't just date just one or whatever. And he's like, but no, I really like this one, I want to focus. No, you just can't lock it down to one. You got to spread it around. And I was like, I was thinking maybe that was bad advice. from a not so nice guy to a nice guy.
I don't. Yeah, if somebody is really, if I was really, if I think of my current partner and she and I started dating, and somebody came to me and said, no, you need to date around. You don't want to commit too early and all this kind of stuff. And I would have said the same thing. I would have said, I'm fine. This is where I want to be. So I think it's just an individual thing, an individual choice as to where you want to be, whether you want that. And I think the advice itself is not appropriate in that case, because you got one guy who's dating one woman. That's where he wants to be. So it's just one person laying their judgment on another, thinking that they know better. That's the way I would look at that situation, because I don't think it's helpful to tell somebody else to do something that's not they're already happy where they are. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to turn it the other round.
So all of us ladies who have guys in the friend zone, we need to send them your way so that they can, heal, recover, and be better. So all of us are going to look around and see all of our friend zone guys and send them your way, okay?
Yes. If you're suffering in the friend zone, you might be a nice guy.
Oh, gosh. She's like, no, if I hang on a little bit more, Jason, I can get her. I just got to hang on a little bit longer.
Oh, how's that? Just keep doubling down. How's that working out for you? Keep doubling down.
All righty. Jason, we're going to do the random question of the day, and then I'm going to let you once again tell everybody how to get in touch with you for your support groups and your coaching service, because you do one-on-one as well.
I do one-on-one, yes, and I'm trying to open up a group as well for January 2020, so that's happening as well.
Awesome. So let's do the random question here. Let's see what we got. Let's see. What is the worst purchase that you've ever made?
Oh. 1967 Chevrolet Camaro.
Really?
That is the worst purchase I ever made.
Why is that?
Oh boy.
Constantly in the shop, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, what I did, I was naive at the time. I was in my 20s, and I had graduated graduate school, and I wanted to give myself a present with some savings, and came across this 67 Camaro for sale. One of my friends said, oh, you should just buy it. You should just buy it. I know nothing about classic cars. And I've always been a car guy, but never the type of guy who works on cars. So it's kind of a bad combination. And as I make the purchase, I buy the car from the guy, I drive it off, and first thing that goes wrong, starter motor doesn't work, can't start the car. I try to fix that. Leaks. On top of it all, too, it's as I start to drive the car more and more, it's like kind of don't like the way it drives. So I kind of like modern cars better. So then it took, and then eventually I sold it. But
no.
I had a few. It wasn't my first go round. I ended up with a 73 Datsun 240Z that was a better choice, but it's still.
Everybody had the Z's, right?
Yeah, that also had that money pit thing going on. So I would say the worst purchases were classic cars.
Okay.
Yeah. If I regret it, those are the two.
Okay. All righty, Jason. Tell everybody once again how to get in touch with you, the support group, sign up for coaching services, and all of that stuff.
You can go to www.planetniceguy.com.
Okay.
That's the community online. And if you want to get to know more about me, it's niceguycoach.com.
Okay, so I'm gonna sneak into the support group as a guy and start posting 67 Camaro pictures and give me flashbacks. All righty, Jason, thank you for hanging out with me. I have been tickled, and I will do my part to help let the ladies know that maybe we should look for the third way instead of the nice guy way, okay?
There you go. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. That is it for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I look forward to seeing everybody next time.